All right, so we got to talk about this. I want to share some thoughts on this whole Kamala Harris capital gains tax proposal that has been put out there because I'm noticing a lot of people sharing their thoughts on it. And so I had to share mine as well, just because this is very concerning. So not only are we having to deal with all the geopolitical stuff, current financial stuff, the monetary reshifting and stuff like that, but the goal for this whole tax situation is to fund the government debt, which is already unsustainable in itself. So they're talking about building out the middle class, but how can you build out the middle class if you're proposing taxes to tax the rich? But then again, everybody who own assets will be impacted by this. So this is definitely something worth talking about. And I don't think enough people really realize what's at stake here. So I want to share some thoughts on it and of course get your opinion. So if you want to see more of these little, quick little takes where I just share some thoughts, put it out there and give you guys something to chew on, definitely make sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and definitely be worth your while. Just because I got a lot of articles I want to share with you real quickly. But sweet and simple, there's a lot of debate about this Kamala Harris plan to raise capital gains tax, especially her idea of taxing deferred gains at up to 25%. This is a big problem for anyone who has money in real estate or the stock market. Whether they're publicly active or not, it doesn't matter. It's not about taking political sides either. It's about knowing how these policies might affect your finances and the business sector in general. So let's start by breaking down what this really means. So when you sell something like a house or stock and make a profit, you have to pay capital gains tax. And as of now, Kamala Harris has already decided to back President Joe Biden's 44.6% capital gains tax proposal, which should be alarming in and of itself, but she's planning on dialing it back just a little bit. And so Harris wants to raise the tax by a large amount, anywhere from 25 to 28%, which can be very controversial. She wants to include gains that haven't even been recognized yet. So ultimately, you could be taxed on the value of goods going up even if you haven't even sold them yet. So it's like being charged on a pay raise from your employer and you haven't even received the funds yet. And ultimately, this could be terrible for homes, because most homes in the U.S. cost currently around $440,000. So if Harris' plan goes through, buyers would have to raise the prices of their homes by almost 50% to approximately $648,000. And this is so that they can keep their profit margins intact. The reason for this is that they would now have to pay a lot more taxes on their profits, which then results in the fact that mortgages will go from a ridiculously high $3,000 a month to an unimaginably high $4,300 a month if the prices went up like I just described on the housing prices. And of course, that's not even mentioning or including the property taxes, insurance, as well as the HOA fees. Now think about what this can mean in the bigger sense. Rich people who own homes might decide not to sell if this tax hike actually goes through. We even have billionaires coming out with their thoughts on this, with Bill Ackman proposing a fair and practical billionaire tax plan as a way of suggesting how the Democrats can actually get money from the uber wealthy. But the real question is, why would they want to give the government such a big chunk of their profits in the first place? They might instead decide to rent out their homes, which will make this housing market even tighter, because ultimately when there's fewer homes for sale, prices have to go up, making it even harder for first-time buyers and middle-class families to even think about buying a home. So basically, things will get worse very fast. Real estate investors and sellers could make a lot less money if fewer homes are sold. The industry as a whole could also shrink, which would hurt jobs and local economies all over the country. The U.S. already allegedly lacks about 4 million homes, and this proposal could make the number around 8 million almost overnight. While this may sound like a good thing for big investors and businesses that can afford to keep assets and not sell them, but it's terrible for regular Americans who want to get rich by buying homes. Families from the middle class might not be able to even get into the market at all, which will make the wealth gap even wider. And we can learn a lot from what's happening with our northern neighbors, because this isn't just a guess. Canada already has a tax like this. And in some cases, capital gains can be as high as 64%. So if it's possible to happen in Canada, it's good to say at some point in the future, it could probably happen here. But God forbid. That will make the American dream of having a home out of reach for a lot of people. So at the end of the day, what are you going to do about this? What can we do about this? Well, for starters, you got to stay up to date on what's going on. Don't get all politically motivated and swayed by the left or the right, because ultimately our country is beyond the point of no return when it comes to debt. So they're going to have to do something with taxes no matter what. I think this whole Kamala Harris unrealized capital gains proposal is clearly extreme and another sign of desperation to try to make sure that a lot of people don't profit off this transition that's going on right now. It's never been more important to find out how these possible changes might affect your funds today, whether you already own a home, whether you want to buy a home, or just worried about how it might impact the economy as a whole. And when it's time to vote, don't just think about politics. Think about how these policies impact your pockets today. So anyway, just trying to share some thoughts real quick and just, try to make sense of all this craziness going on and just keeping you up on what's happening in the news. So if you're interested, if you enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Definitely looking forward to bringing you more these little quick takes, dissecting, analyzing the news. And hope you found value here. Take this, share so people can find out what's going on. And I'll catch you guys later.